the electric plan for the utility.
Okay, it's 8:15. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll begin with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, any additions?
I had none.
Okay.
Move approval.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, consent agenda with approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 22nd and approval of claims for November 12th. Any questions?
I have a comment, but I'd like to make that after we approve.
Okay. Well, then I will entertain a motion for approving the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I just want to mention that I noticed one of the items on the claims was training for the Northwood Public Power Association's labor relations. Was it training, Chris, or was it a conference? There.
Both.
Both.
Yeah, it was an HR professionals meeting, and I sent Lisa to it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to commend you, Lisa, for identifying that and investing the time and energy for that. Specifically, Lisa, of course, she's the one that had to go.
Yeah.
And thank her for that because, you know, looking at the agendas from previous years, it's all about how do we figure this out? How do we play like one team? I think it's a really good tone setting because I think we're in the middle of negotiations as we speak. So appreciated that.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to public comment. Anything from the room? Robin? You got
No,
No?
maybe later.
Maybe later, okay. Anyone online? Doesn't look like I see any hands raised, but that's just the panelists, right?
Now, those are the guests.
Yeah, it's all staff.
All staff, okay, well,
Michael.
we will have another chance for
Yes, I
public
think
comment
That's him too, yeah.
Yeah,
at the end. So we will move on to the general manager's report.
Thank you. My report is relatively brief this time. I had a wonderful vacation, so
Great.
thank you for putting up with my absence. And, just one little funny vignette, we were at sea on election day, and I was trying to figure out, do we get off the boat the next day? Is there gonna be civil unrest or anything? And the boat they blacked out all the news channels. We could get all of the entertainment channels and all that, but no news.
Really?
It was I think it was their corporate strategy. It was brilliant. And then they opened the bar downstairs. And so we had a happy boat and there was no controversy and
Wow.
just general good feelings at sea. And then the next day we stumbled around Santa Barbara and it was fine. But it was interesting. Could not find out anything. And
I
that
wish
was,
somebody would have cut my TV.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying to Chris, that cruise director,
brilliant.
we should hire him at Walker County to.
Yeah.
Now they claimed it was technical difficulties.
I'm sure they did.
And so there was that. The other thing that I'd like to talk about just for a moment is every year, American Public Power Association, kind of our mothership trade organization, has a legislative rally. And that's an opportunity for folks to get together with legislative staffers and the legislators themselves and talk to them about things that are of interest to the organization. And they've been doing this for a long time, 50 years or more. And the senators and representatives, the senators and congresspeople, they know very well that this is happening. And so they're actually ready for it. I've been to these before. They're very, very good. Our organization now is engaged in a bunch of things that really benefit from some direct contact with our legislators, especially when you look at what we're doing on geothermal and think about the permitting issues around that. The hydrogen hub, potential fusion hub, all of our broadband issues, it just kind of goes on and on. And that's not even touching the water issues. The water issues are huge with regards to PFAS especially and other, not for us. We don't have PFAS, we don't have lead pipes, but there's a number of huge water issues. I think this would be a good year to represent Whatcom PUD at this, and I'd like to be your representative for that meeting. It's all in, it's gonna be fairly expensive. It's, you know, with the hotel, airfare and everything else, it's a few $1,000s. So it's not,
Do we have to take a
No,
vote for
she-
that?
no, I'm just looking
No.
for your
Oh, okay.
endorsement and, you know, and then I'll sign up and go if that's what you guys want. If you don't want me to go, that's fine too. I just think this is an opportunity and this is a good time for it.
When is it?
It is next February 24th through the 26th. And Wapuda's got a separate, group going and they've got some other stuff that, so this is the APPA's calendar and I've been through their events before.
Mhm.
And then Wapuda has, hours before and after and during, where we just talked about Washington issues.
Mhm.
The delegations go state by state.
Mhm.
And, the thing that I think this time, we're probably not gonna talk to actual legislators very much because none of them are running in 25. When I was there the last time, Mitch McConnell was running and he spent 2 hours with us and, we can talk at great length about that. He's not what you expect. He was really remarkable. And I'm just not sure we'll get that this time because nobody's running. But on the other hand, since nobody's running, you might have time.
Right.
So,
Well, I think it would be great for you to represent us at the legislative rally. That,
Yeah, it's also not uncommon for commissioners to go, to these kinds of events. It doesn't fit with my calendar for sure, but I just wanted to mention if Jamie, I guess not Todd, but if
Yeah.
Jamie, you're
it doesn't fit with my calendar either.
Okay.
I'll probably
in a
be,
future year.
yeah, in future year
And
would
they
be
do
great,
this
yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
let's think about that in the future.
Yeah,
All right, well, I'll go ahead and take care of that and let you guys know. So the last week of February, I'll be out of town, but at work.
Okay.
All right, thank you. That's it for the agenda.
That's it. Okay, moving on to operations. Who do you have?
Should have Kurt.
Hi, Kurt.
Good morning, commissioners. I just have one very good piece of news to deliver, and that is our electrical substation over at Plant 1 is online currently. This is the one that we've been wrestling with for the last several years. We've been up for about a week now. We've had no hiccups since we've brought the plant online with the new substation, and I think this is a really big win for the team, and everyone really just kept grabbing on and chewing and getting after it and keeping on it and not stopping, and we finally got that thing online. And I think that's a really big win. So I just want to report that.
That's good news. Thank you, Kurt.
congratulations to the team.
Thanks.
So I'd like to ask, that now that we're on the other side, of it, not quite completely, I mean, we should probably wait a little bit. It'd be great to get a, kind of a report, lessons learned, what did you learn from this whole process? It obviously went through many hiccups. It'd be great for the commission to understand that evolution of that project from concept to completion.
I
So
can-
some report out on that.
Put something together.
Yeah, aside from Brian, I don't think there's anybody left. Well, John Littlefield, I don't think there's anybody left from the original team on this. It's been since 2018 or 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big deal.
Did
That's-
that electrical, question for you, Kurt, did that electrical substation have any upgrades? Did that have anything to do with the variable frequency drives that we were installing? Did we have? to
No,
adapt?
this is just an electrical substation, bringing the 115,000 volts in and turning it to 4160 for plant level use. But no, this is nothing to do with VFDs at all.
And are the VFDs online then?
Yeah, we have several VFDs online with the high heads and the intake pumps, and that's something that's between maintenance and repair. That's something that's an ongoing thing. We're actually high head 3 was just reinstalled, and that's something that has to be wired up and ran. And then intake 5 was also just recently put in the well, and that still needs to be wired up, but those are VFDs. And like I said, those are regular maintenance and or repair items, but when you first started, and even before that, we used to say we were down to 1.5 pumps, but now we're up to about 3.5 now instead. So we've been making a lot of good progress in that regard.
And then, just what's river levels at? Do we know?
Let me check real quick. It's come up quite a bit in the last 24 hours. We're at about 10,000 CFS right now.
And we were down at 1,000 pretty much at the low point of the summer, right?
Well, we were down to, just actually about 2 days ago, we were down at 3,000. So
Yeah, I think I remember
come up
seeing
quite a
right
bit.
around 1,000 at the end of September.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It got pretty low. Well, no, not real low.
That's a lot of fluctuation. I can appreciate how difficult that can make the job.
Mhm.
So thanks to
Yeah,
everyone on that.
Thanks for recognizing that. Thank you.
Chair, I got one other item regarding the Grandview well, and I don't know where we should cover that in the agenda.
May as well do it now, I think. Operations.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Brian sent a nice, clarification memo out regarding, the water quantities and what acquiring more property might do. I just wanted to talk to my colleague, Todd, see if you have any thoughts on follow-up on that item, or is your interest on the subject satiated there?
I'm pretty satiated.
Okay, now I was wondering about, we were talking about more property acquisition.
Yeah.
And it almost like what Brian responded, made it seem like, well, maybe it's something we should consider.
At this point, with one meeting left and a new commissioner already, I feel a little hesitant to weigh in.
But jump in.
Yeah.
You're still here?
Yeah, you're still in the seat.
I'm good,
Okay.
so.
All right.
I will jump in though.
Sure.
Yeah, please.
Additional land purchase there is additional cost being driven into the Grandview system, which is
Mhm.
already too costly.
Very costly.
So, we've got to tread very cautiously on anything that we invest in Grandview. There's just there's not a business case to be made that's easy to make. If you got an operational necessity, which is largely what was driving this, it ended up you end up with a negative financial impact, but it's you got to do it. But you get beyond that, where it's not just an operational necessity, where it's a target of opportunity or something, you got to be able to make the business case. And right now, I'm not prepared to do that.
Right, that's excellent, but it is a resource if somehow we get additional demand for water and there's a case for it, then certainly an option to pursue. But right now, we don't have anything like that.
Well, no, and I'm, we're protecting all of our rights, whether they're perfected or inchoate. So that won't change one way or the other. And the city of Ferndale has said that they do not want to intertie with us. And that would be the likely use for additional. We've talked about the double L and the other extensions to the trailer parks that, want water. And essentially they've come back and I think we've reported to the commission that they've said they don't want to pay for it. And it's not cheap. So that's an issue.
Do you think it's utilities that limit the growth right there? I mean, it's right off of the freeway. There's such good access to, with the way Walker County is growing, I'm surprised that there's not more growth happening at Grandview, considering there's two exits on the freeway.
Probably not
right
the
there.
best person to answer that. I think there's a lot of historical reasons why Grandview's growth is retarded. The developers that were in there, their relationship with the county and the city's desire to expand sewer but not water. I don't think there's an issue with Puget or Cascade, so those two utilities I think are fine. The road infrastructure seems okay, so I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a Lammert area, isn't it?
I'm not sure if it's a Lammert or is part of the UGA. I'd have to check for a minute.
But Lammerts are relatively new.
No longer new, they're 20 years now.
Are they, well, in planning?
Can it be both?
It would not be a Lambert is a growth management act term, just for everyone's benefit, a limited area of more intensive rural development.
No, it's in Ferndale's UGA.
It's in Ferndale.
Yeah, I
So then
can
it's
confirm
not,
that.
Okay.
so like High Notes Corner might, or that kind of thing might be a Lambert, which is outside of UGA, but is an limited area, more intensive rural development.
Mhm.
So then it's in the UGA for Ferndale, then it's not Lambert.
Okay.
The question might be posed to the Port's Economic Development Director and their economic development strategy. What is happening with Grandview? What are the inhibitors to growth at Grandview?
Well, and they worked with the city of Ferndale on that, and I remember Don Goldberg years ago briefing me on that.
On that area?
Yeah, but I don't want to speak, because I don't think I would remember and give it any justice.
Okay. Just a curiosity. Thank you.
Great.
Is that?
Thanks, commissioners. Yeah, that's all for now.
Okay, thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to old business with a broadband update.
Mr. Enterkin.
It's your time to shine.
You can deliver from right here.
Oh, I can, oh, I don't have to like cover over this.
Oh, no.
Okay. Morning, everyone. My update is relatively brief on the broadband front.
Can
We,
I just stop you?
Sure.
You're actually supposed to stand right in front of him. Yeah,
Go ahead and have a seat.
Yeah,
I mean,
now we can see you. Thanks.
work?
Yeah.
Okay.
and the owl will pick you up as you speak, so it'll focus in on you.
all right, fancy.
For our tech guy, you should know all of us, shouldn't you?
He didn't say.
You can't
know everything, Tom.
The software side.
But we're perfect now, sorry.
All right, perfect. This is comfortable anyway. So for BEAD, we know from the state broadband office that, well, what they've said is that the BEAD NOFA will drop today. As of 8 o'clock, at 8 AM, it has not.
when did they say it was gonna drop? At midnight? So 8 hours ago?
Yeah, I believe it's at 12 AM. So I checked. At
Pretty-
4 AM. And then,
Pretty par for the course.
yes, yeah. I wouldn't be
It's
surprised.
gonna drop.
Yeah.
We just don't know when.
And is it finalized when it drops? Like, that's when it's final?
Yeah,
Okay.
that will be the true notice of funding opportunity that we will all be using.
And the standards are set at that point and,
Yes.
okay.
Another just piece of information to share with the commission is that my counterpart at the port, Gina, is no longer with the port, which has a big impact, but, we're meeting with the port, to discuss next steps. And then there's a new item on your new business, that we can discuss later if needed. That's the broadband report.
Okay.
Back to Chris.
Questions?
Yes,
Yeah,
many,
you-
many things,
go.
but, okay, so, Chris, did you want to say something? Before?
Well, I'm gonna send a note over to Gina, just thanking her for all that she's done with us the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the first thing I want to speak about is that, you know, I mean, before we had you, Andrew, Gina was our source of expertise too. And, I think that, it's, sorry to see her go at this crucial moment where we're about to take the next step. But having said that, I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on the appreciation for all that she's done for our joint effort. You know, it's hard to imagine with all the different aspects of broadband development, everything from digital equity to funding to collaboration between the county, the EDI requests, the request for state funding, the first round of proposals, the management of contractors. I mean, Gina demonstrated an amazing amount of competence and capability covering, and I'm, tremendous amount of bases, and she doesn't just have my respect and I think the respect of the whole PUD. She has a respect of practically every elected leader, and certainly, other leaders in staff positions throughout the county and at the city. And, certainly she's, appreciated, respected, and missed in that capacity. And I'm delighted that Chris, you're, gonna send a letter, and it's certainly, it's heartfelt appreciation for that I would like to I'd like us to communicate. Maybe she can be a consultant, I couldn't help but say that. If it works out. Anyway, one of the things, I attended last week a big, workshop on, project area maps. It was, just to understand a little bit of how much work it is to figure all this stuff out. You know, Andrew, you're an expert at GIS related matters, but there's a lot of confusion with the project area maps too, not intentional. But for example, addresses that are actually outside of the, actual polygon, that's like confusing as heck. But lucky you got all that handled. I wanted to also say that the challenge process, which began in, July, is now complete. And that's obviously a precondition to getting the note. It was also probably lined up right with the completion of the project area maps, right? That's where did anything shift? I guess I'd like to jump into the question now. In Whatcom County, did anything shift as far as the project area maps that's of consequence, as far as you know?
There were shifts, yes. The pre-challenge process, the challenge process, and the post-challenge process all relied on June 2023 data. When the final project maps came out, they used the December 2023 data. So you'll naturally see new BSLs appear that were not in any of the previous iterations, which will skew some of the data in terms of the total number of unserved, underserved, and served. So that's definitely happening. One of the project areas got folded into become one larger project area, which is area 42, which is primarily east of Sumas and Glacier. So those used to be two project areas.
So now we have 11 instead of 12.
Correct.
Okay.
So as we go through the data, we'll see some discrepancies between the data that we've been talking about previously to the new, what they're using as the new data set, which would be referring to version 4 of the Fabric DSL data, which is the December 2023 data.
And I want to make sure that people understand that just because there's been a challenge process and the database has been updated and all that stuff does not mean that it is entirely accurate. We do have reports of hay bales and other things being broadband service locations in other areas. So there's still some silliness in there. We found that there was a real discrepancy in Point Roberts information, and which was odd because it's covered between the RDOF, between the WISBO grants and the other grant they've got out there in mid-month. It should have everything covered, and yet it's showing 800 points that aren't covered, but they are. So there's some weird stuff going on. These databases, I've been dealing with them for 45 years, and they're never perfect. They're always getting better, and then you're always adding new data, which is inaccurate. So as you get the old stuff better, new junk comes in, and you got to deal with it. And, it'll never be perfect. It'll just be better.
In general, it improved in every way. Was there anything that happened which made it worse from your perspective, as far as updates to the budgetary maps?
No, I don't think I would describe it as worse, no.
Okay.
If anything, I think the updated data set is probably reflecting more served locations than underserved and unserved.
Okay. The Point Roberts customer that, I want to let the commission know that there was a customer who contacted me as a result of my other activities running for office. And staff, Andrew, I fielded that, had excellent follow-up. I wanted to compliment you on thoroughness of the response. We did what we could to understand the situation and realize that it was outside the scope because it was a prior project with Woodby-Tel. I do have some good news though. I just got an email this morning saying that he did now get a response from Woodby-Tel, who was not responsive, maybe who knows why. And that he's very appreciative of that response that he got. And also indicated that it's looking favorable, that they're gonna get across to the thing. Get across the finish line and finally get that literally last 100 feet of service to his house, even though technically he's showing his served. So That's the kind of thing I really appreciate, us doing, showing up for people in the community. Um, and, I don't, there's gonna be I think it's really important not to preempt what's gonna happen this Thursday. Between our staff and the port staff. And so I'm speaking at the highest level. I did a lot, had now 1,500 conversations, more than with voters and citizens of this county. And I would say easily, nearing 1,000 validations of the need for us to continue to do something around broadband. And that's pretty solid samples. It beats any survey we've done as far as amount of actual feedback or the city's done or the county done. And what that really communicates to me is that we have to continue our efforts on this and improve both the quality and the price of service that people are getting. And that can be done through partnerships with the private sector. Not at all close to that, but there's a lot of interest among other leaders in local government, including conversations I've had with the mayor, county executive, council members of both the city and the county, that they really are counting on the PUD. They really are counting, and especially now, they really are counting on us. And part of that is then, okay, if you want us to do this, we need your support here, here, and here. And we shouldn't be afraid to ask for that. I've gotten clear indications from the county and the city that they really do want to support us in this. So, let's be open to the idea of asking for that, help and support too. And a piece of that could be retail. And, not the PUD doing retail, I'm talking about the NOAA doing retail, which they can do if we provide lit fiber type of service. And I know that there's concerns about that. I'm not in any way dissuading from that. I've registered those concerns. They are solid, rational points and concern about the amount of maintenance we have to do to maintain lit fiber. But there's also, where it's not just us, it's not just the PUD. We're talking about the entire community that we need to think about serving. So that's kind of high level input from one of 3 commissioners on this subject. That's all I got about it.
Do you have anything to add? Broadband?
I would just say, I think I support what you're saying in general. However, from a financial aspect, I think that we're gonna have to find additional funding streams.
That's kind of what I was saying, asking for help.
Yeah, either the county's gonna have to step up with some EDI money, or we're gonna have to look at getting some county and city support for, utilizing potentially our taxing authority to move forward on that. Because, we're pretty limited as a rate-based utility otherwise to grant funding, it seems like. So I support you in general. I think there was a movement by a local party to look at increasing the ability of the county to, or support for the county taking the bank capacity, which is also gonna be a impact to local taxpayers. So, it's gonna come down to more of what is their capacity for property tax threshold and paying additional property taxes, and if there's support in the community for that or not. So.
All right. Thanks for clarifying, and that's exactly what I meant.
So let me make a couple comments. So, back on the comment about Point Roberts, when a broadband service location or BSL is in an area that's been funded by a prior grant, it will be excluded from the unserved areas. So you'll have people who call in and say, hey, I'm not served, and they're completely correct. But it will not show up as something that's eligible for additional grants because it's already received grant money. So that's one bit of confusion we always run into. Andrew was the first one who made me aware of that a couple of years ago and with the RDOF funding, and why we couldn't get grants to fix the yard off area, it's because there's already been grants to fix the yard off area. And, you know, that's totally appropriate. Second thing is from staff's point of view, on Thursday, we're just going in with the intent of trying to figure out a game plan that will get the most customers in Whatcom County served, just flat out. And we can't guarantee any success, but what we're gonna try to do is get us the highest probability of success of the strategies that we can put together between us and the board. And we'll report back and let you know what we come up with.
Thank you.
And clarifying question, those areas that are, you said a BSL, right, broadband service location, those areas that have unserved people that are, but were previously there was a grant funding to provide service in that area. Some of those grant fundings went, or maybe most of them went to a private entity for that. It wasn't a public agency that left people off generally.
I think that's almost entirely, I think it's entirely true in Whatcom County. I can't speak outside of Whatcom.
Sure, but what we're talking about is a private company that got grant funding to provide service, and then not everybody in there is served
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. The private companies may get there, they may not. It's not our, you know, our job is bird dogging that. And we've done a real good job of getting with Senator Cantwell's staff, for instance, and lighting up one of the private companies that wasn't providing service fast enough. And it actually goaded them into some action, and we're continuing to do that. You know, we don't have any leverage other than bully pulpit type stuff, but we're very willing to use that.
Shaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Hey, we paid you $30 million to get this done. Why haven't you done it? That seems like a lot of money to me. Just saying. I think the senator's staff and the senator and everybody else is okay with that statement.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to adjudication.
Okay, real brief, we did have our first case committee meeting last week. The task was to nominate, the court has not been clear and conflicting in its request of the committee. Were we to nominate 3 candidates for co-chair, chair of the committee, or are we to select it ourselves? The letters in the court always clear or conflicting. So we nominated some chairs and co-chairs. Emma Fisk from the State Department of Ecology volunteered to be the chair. There'll be a lot of this kind of procedural scheduling. And there were 2 others that we nominated to have a local presence. Haley Hurst and another person who I've forgotten. I think it would be Emma Fisk at the end of the day. And then as for co-chairs or vice chairs, I offered to be a vice chair. And there was Haley Hurst and Jennifer Kuchin and Charles Turk from the Nooksack tribe was the 3rd chair, but also co-chair. So we'll see what the court decides on that. We've set our next meeting for the 17th of December. That will go over e-service rules that were proposed by the court. We also asked the court to clarify for us what their instructions are, or it's not clear. We're supposed to identify issues and propose procedural solutions. Just on procedure like notice requirements and things like that, or are we waiting for the court to give us a topic that they want us to comment on? So we're kind of adrift in a way until we get some better clarity from the court. So that's next meeting's the 17th. We felt we needed to do something on the e-service and not push this off till the new year sometime. So and they're being held largely virtually hybrid at this point. The next court hearing is December 3rd, and at that point, we anticipate the ecology to present the summons and the final claim form for the court's review and approval. We have not seen either.
John, do you think the court's gonna allow comment or anything on the 3rd?
Nope.
So
The only parties in the case right now is the Department of Ecology. And at the last court hearing, they didn't were not receptive to comments. You know, I could have stood up and waved my hand and maybe the court would recognize me, but there wasn't anything substantive to say, and we don't expect that this time. If you wanted to speak, you could probably write a letter and ask to participate.
Yeah, you only get to wave your hands once in a while,
Yeah.
don't use that up there.
That's right, you gotta save that court opportunity for another time. One thing back to the case standing committee, the committee did receive a letter from someone from the Private Well Owners Association for the state, asking to be on the committee, and we declined to take any comment or react to it. It was the court solicited request, had a deadline for submission of requests to participate, and then selected participants on the committee and did not select everybody who put a name in. So it was like, why, we didn't feel appropriate to step in the shoes of the court and add people to the committee when the court didn't, and it was past the deadlines for the court. So if the court wants to reopen the time period or consider other people, that's the court's consideration.
Questions, comments? Nothing on this, all right. Moving on to geothermal.
It's Andrew again.
Hello again.
Hey, Andrew.
No update on geothermal. We checked in with the tribe last week and they're still working on getting an event set up for a geothermal 101. So as soon as they have that set with their council, they'll let all of you know.
And where all of the commissioners are invited to that event, right? So we'll have to notice.
Yeah, we'll notice it, yeah.
Great.
And unless for some reason only one of you can go.
Right,
In which
right.
case we won't worry about it, but I'm expecting, you know, to pick a date that'll hopefully work for everybody.
Yeah, okay, looking forward to it.
Mhm.
Okay, strategic plan update. Dun, dun, dun.
So we got our first formal meeting next week. Just a reminder, everybody put together a straw man.
Okay, what was the date for that?
That was the 19th.
19th.
And we do have a request to change the time a little bit.
Yeah,
And push the start time out to 9 o'clock.
or 8:30, whichever. So I just want to see, there's a morning event before that at 6:30.
Who is doing that?
The Farm Bureau does a breakfast.
Well, that would make sense as to why that's 6:30.
Yeah, so,
It's the farm here.
I'd like to go to it and then come to the, so
8:30 is a good start time for me.
if 8:30 works, that, I'd be fine with that. Does that still create a challenge for you, Chris, for your next meeting?
Oh, yeah. But don't worry about it.
Okay.
I've got Andrew.
That sounded sinister.
No, it's the Small Cities Partnership meeting.
Oh, I see.
I normally always attend that. And
Yeah,
Andrews has attended a couple of times making geothermal presentations.
and can't wait to go again.
Well, and Kurt also, I need to get him involved. So I've got staff options. Ideally, I'd like to be there myself. Sometimes you can't. And that's the way it goes.
I bet they serve a good breakfast at the Farm Bureau.
It's actually at a restaurant, so.
Too bad. Okay, anything else on strategic plan update? We will be here fresh 8:30 next Tuesday.
Should be good. I'll make sure we got a pot of coffee.
Okay, great. And you'll be here for that, Tom.
I will.
So you'll have your own straw man, huh?
Mhm.
Great. Moving on to new business. Action 1, approve agreement for professional services with Drayton Archaeology.
And then this is Andrew.
Again.
Yeah,
Andrew.
you'll notice the dollar amount is pretty small. We're just not to exceed $5,000, but the reason it's on the agenda today is because this is technically an updated professional services agreement that the commission has not seen. So we've just wrapped it all into one approval. Let me know if you have any questions.
This is just getting an archaeologist on board because we know that there have been all kinds of artifacts found up at Point Roberts.
Super important
Yes.
to have an archaeologist involved. The
And
city
this was the
explained
one-
it that and it still messed up, so.
And I believe this was recommended to us by Belonging, is that correct? Or somebody in the tribe recommended this firm to us.
I believe so. Yeah.
This is Garth Baldwin with Drayton Archaeology,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
very reliable.
So-
Also a Blaine person.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
I have no questions.
You would ask for your approval then?
Move approval of the resolution number 1.
Now, action number 1.
Action one.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to resolution one, approval of resolution number 862, authorizing cancellation of warrant number, do I have to read that? 011989978 for Civic Plus LLC.
Commissioners, I submitted a updated agenda. This resolution has been expanded upon.
Oh, and I don't have that on my agenda,
I can tell
so
you.
it'll be
Yes,
Stephanie.
good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
The hot seat
So-
right there.
The first warrant is the one you just read, which is for Civic Plus. They have not received their check in the mail in the last 2 months. So it's mostly just voiding it, reissuing the one for them so they can get paid.
Sounds
And
good.
then, so there's 3 warrants in total. The next warrant is 012022582 for CSD. Unfortunately, the county is doing a positive pay system in January with Key Bank, and Key Bank had issued it early. And so a lot of the checks that I had sent out they just rejected. And so they're part of the ones that we have to pay, so we're gonna reissue that one as well.
Okay.
And then the same with that one is, it was, Mills Electric. They also they weren't able to reissue their check with their bank, so we have to avoid that one and reissue that one as well.
Okay.
You're not going for collections then?
No.
John still showed up for work today, so look at this.
I saw him coming and I said, no, that's
And I know, the Key Bank has kind of fessed up to the whole thing, and they've said they're gonna cover any bank charges
Okay.
that third parties incur. So, this one, truly, there's no way we could have seen this coming.
Yeah,
We find out when people call and say, hey, we have our check.
How bizarre.
Yeah, and
so there might be some in the future that haven't gotten a hold of us, but so far, that's the ones I have.
These are the ones, okay.
And we'll try to bundle that into one resolution.
So it'll still be resolution number 862.
There's no connection between this and your vacation.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve
I
resolution.
shouldn't joke like that, I'm sorry.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, Stephanie. Okay, commissioner reports. I'm the first one on here, it looks like. I just have a couple things coming up. The WIRA one has a meeting.
The
which is
bank
great.
and watershed management board?
Yes, the watershed management board, and that is on Thursday, I
Yep.
think, from 1:30 to 3.
Oh, get there early.
I'm gonna be online.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Parking's gonna be a real problem.
Yeah.
Becca gave me a heads up.
Yeah, I don't wanna deal with the parking, but, I do want to say, I think that's the same time as the Wakuda Water Committee meeting.
Okay.
So I think you were
Yeah, I
my
can cover that.
second for
Yeah,
that,
I
okay.
know.
Cause I'll be at the watershed meeting. And, tomorrow is our exit interview with the SAO, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and that'll be here. I think I'm the only commissioner.
Yeah.
attending.
Thanks for covering that.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
and then Wakuda has some meetings coming up, but I'm bound up on Wednesday and Thursday, so it looks like Friday I will be able to make the board meeting for Wakuda.
That's good.
And that is it for me.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
For you, Commissioner, about the watershed management board. They had some concerns early in the year. You were super engaged, super involved over the year. I'm wondering, is there any, are you happy with where the watershed management, and are there actions that need to be taken from your perspective, and anything we need to support you on?
I'm happy that we're having a meeting.
Okay.
So I think my big concern was that we were not having consistent board meetings because there was nothing to report on. And it was, it was just moving very slow. We're very supported by staff, here at the PUD has staff members working, on things behind the scenes that we don't see, but, I'm happy that we're having a meeting. I know there was a huge delay in the new strategic plan update dropping. Do you have information on that?
I do not.
Yeah.
I know I had seen some stuff from Becky. She was gonna go back on it as a priority after the Puget Sound Partnership meeting
yeah.
was over. So I would expect the last 4 or 5 weeks, she's done some work on
Yeah.
that. And we were pretty close before.
Yeah.
So I think, and the other thing that happened was that whole, linear extension, linear extrapolation of the old Utah state model. The controversy around that was, kind of beyond belief, and it sucked everybody's time at the staff level, and that kind of prevented a lot of the other work that moved forward. That, by the way, is still not over.
So to answer your question, that's my biggest concern, is that we're very behind with putting out a strategic plan update, and I think other people are concerned about that as well. Becky is working as hard as she can, as fast as she can, and like I said, we're very supported by staff here. Rebecca has her hand up. Go ahead,
Hi.
Rebecca.
Hi, I also wanted to, and you were part of this, Jamie, the getting ready for the Puget Sound Partnerships Leadership Council meeting, which took not just a couple of weeks to get planned, but it took a lot of time for not just Becky Peterson, but other people involved with it to get that planning. So there have been some delays on getting the Wyra One Work Board, they call it their strategic plan. Getting that finished, but Chris is correct. It's very, very close to being done. I know that Becky dearly wanted it to be done by December. It could happen, but we'll have to see. It might be January instead. So just wanted to let you know there's been a lot of other projects going on that have taken the staff time a lot longer to be able to move forward the final plan to the board for approval. So, but it should be coming in the next couple of months for sure.
Thank you, Rebecca.
You're welcome.
So that's it for me.
Thank you, thanks for that.
Yeah, looks like Commissioner Legacy, you're up next.
So I don't have any upcoming per diem requests, other than I am attending the WAPUDA meeting here at the end of this week. And then, but I did attend, and I appreciate the commission supporting my attendance at the Public Power Forum over at Energy Northwest. Just share a couple of things that came out of that. They had a New York Times bestselling author who presented there, Dan Gardner, and he spoke about, and Chris went as well, and it was great to be over there with Chris. It was a great presentation, I thought. He presented about why big projects fail. And to sum it all up, because we try to think fast and act slow when we should be thinking slow and acting fast. Meaning that our planning is crunched in, and an example that he used was the Sydney Opera House and how they chose the architect who designed the Sydney Opera House but didn't have a lot of experience in building that, and it became a big debacle that lasted a long time, went over a lot of cost overruns. So the lesson learned out of that is think slow and act fast. They had a great presentation on geothermal. Chris went to that one as well. One of the things that came out of that for me was more questions on induced seismicity. And I'm gonna really take a moment here and speak to both commissioners that when we do the feasibility study for the geothermal, as we move forward from the pre-feasibility to the feasibility, I think it's gonna be really important that this commission ensure that there's a chapter dedicated to induced seismicity. And what that means is earthquakes that come about. And when we talk about enhanced geothermal, that's code for fracking, utilizing that. And as we talk with the public about that, I think it's really important to be transparent on that. And so, and that chapter should be really broad and cover a lot of the issues that can come about from that. And it should include lessons learned from already noted failures, i.e. in Switzerland, where they've had 2 geothermal plants that, or projects that had to be shut down because of induced seismicity. I'm sure there's others out there, but those are the 2 that stick out in my mind, especially because of the significant cost that came from having to abandon a project. So I really want to make sure the commission incorporates that knowledge that's come out. The 2 presenters that they had there on geothermal, one was a company representative, so he has a certain viewpoint. And the other representative that they had was a geologist from PNNL, and she used to work in the oil and gas industry. So that was a very focused point of view that came out from that panel. And there wasn't any discussion on the seismicity aspects of that. And I want to make sure that we're eyes wide open when we go into that, so that we're respective of the responsibility we have to the public there, so.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
So in the pre-feasibility study, there is a section on seismicity, and the purpose behind it is not to determine seismicity, because we don't know enough to know that yet. But to make sure that as you do the feasibility study, that there is a section on seismicity and that is one of the focuses, so. Hear you loud and clear, great, we're there.
Thank you.
And we don't wanna cause any problems. I mean, you're drilling on the side of a volcano, what could possibly go wrong? And there's science fiction movies about this, right? And so yes, we're kind of well aware of that. The gal from PNNL was a fracking expert and a metallurgy expert, so she was really good on, I stopped afterward and talked to her, she was really good on casing technology and grout, which sounds really, really dull, but we can have a long discussion on why that's critical. The firm was Ormat, and they have, I think they say 2 gigawatts, they've got the 2 gigawatts of projects that they already own and operate. They are strictly hydrothermal though, they are not enhanced geothermal. So they're just out there looking for water tables that already exist and then recycling out, such as the geysers in California. In fact, Ormat may own the geysers. But in any case, they're big enough that you gotta take them seriously. If they wanna move into enhanced geothermal, they could do it in a heartbeat. It would just be, hiring one fracking drill rig and a couple of engineers and geologists and go. And they know how to build power plants. They've got that all together. So I passed on that information to Andrew, so he's got them as a contact if we ever get to the point where we're contracting to build a plant. That'd be a great group to have bid on it. Excellent meeting.
Yeah, it was. And another great presentation that they had was about battery grid storage, and some of the experts they had there were from Snohomish PUD, where Chris previously worked. And I'm not gonna go into all the details of what Snohomish PUD is presented on, but one note that really came to me was somebody said, it's difficult to put a monetary value on resiliency. And that stuck with me. That's I think, really important point to note. And as we move forward, how do we put a monetary value on that idea of resiliency? Because it is an added cost, and there isn't necessarily a way to measure that return on investment. So that's just something that I think stuck with me and is something to keep in the back of your mind. Chris and I sat down there for, it was a fair bit of time in the morning to talk about a few things, and so I really appreciate that. The things that came from that are, I think we're gonna work better in the future of having a little bit more in-depth presentation in our packets of information. We noted that there was maybe a little bit of a communication breakdown in that previous memo that came from the general manager about the direction shift. And it wasn't as clear to us, I think, that it was only for a certain couple of areas of that direction shift. And I think
You're referring to the telecom.
I am referring to
The broadband.
Yeah, the broadband, sorry. And so what can come out of that hopefully is a little more in-depth presentation or of information in our packets. So I think we're gonna work on that in the future. And then, but overall, that was a great opportunity. And I think that's really important to some of these events where a commissioner can attend with the GM or with another staff member to really get a opportunity for some of that one-on-one communication. So, and then lastly, I did mention that I wanted to work on, and you'll find in front of you, some name tag ideas potentially, because there are other commissioners that show up and they have name tags, and I noticed that we don't, and some people, so anyhow, I reached out to a company that I've had some experience working with on a credit union board, and these are some of the ideas that are in front of you. And before I was able to get a cost analysis, I wanted to get which version you two preferred, and then we'd move forward with a cost from that, whether it's the 1.5-inch one or the 1.25-inch one, whether you want it black and white, whether I'm preferential to the color one. And then do you want a metal, a rim around it, or do you want to just stay with the plastic?
I'm fine with plastic.
Okay.
And I like color, but I hate magnetic clasps.
Okay,
So just an FYI,
okay,
and I'll tell you what, I lose them every time.
okay,
They fall off.
okay,
I mean, I'm in a barnyard more often when I'm wearing a magnet, which, maybe that's why, but, I am notorious for losing magnetic.
okay, so you would prefer non-magnetic?
I would like a pin, yeah.
Okay,
Can I make a suggestion? Just order two. Order a magnetic one and a pin one for everybody, and then just use it as appropriate.
but do you have any input on whether you want the PUD above the name or
No,
to the side?
I like them both. I like the color ones too, though.
Okay, me too.
They're smaller, I like smaller ones too, but I don't care.
I like these ones the most.
Okay, so the one where the PUD's to the side of the name and then an
Yeah.
inch and a quarter. Okay, that was where I was at as well.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I'll come back
Be
next
sure
year.
and very carefully proof this.
Yes.
If you notice down at the bottom, it says for best results in accuracy review or proofs on a computer.
Oh. Well, I was reviewing my proofer.
Okay,
Yeah,
So-
no, great.
Commissioner, so we're going with the far left inch and a quarter color, correct?
that's what,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, and one thing I would add is, you and I talked a little bit before the meeting. One of the things I tend to do when I've done ordering for these in the past, and in fact, I was doing this research because I'm gonna have to have a new, name tag made for the desk. If you've worked with these guys, if you wanted to get a bid through them, I can talk to the company that I've been talking with, and let's just kind of compare
Oh, yeah, sounds good.
numbers.
Let's talk up on.
Okay.
Thanks, Jess.
Great, thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Name tags, yeah.
So I wanted to ask as follow-up, your report, the Snohomish PUD person, I'm sure, Chris, you know this person too?
Oh, yeah.
So,
There were two.
I'd love to, obviously I couldn't attend for, I was busy. But, I'd love to have a follow-up conversation with, the Snohomish PUD people.
Oh, no.
So you wanna make that email introduction or however you wanna do it, it'd be great,
All right.
thanks.
I know this is not the time, but I'm really interested in this induced seismicity issue, just because of the reading that I've done showed that there was no correlation between, no positive correlation between earthquakes and
Well,
geo.
that's not entirely true. So for instance, in Oklahoma, they've been doing a lot of fracking and they had swarms of hundreds of 2.0 earthquakes in areas that never had earthquakes before. Now, whether or not that's kind of meaningful, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean.
right.
but in terms of, we know it's related to the fracking, because
Uh-huh.
there wasn't those earthquakes before the fracking. But was it related to, were they not putting enough fluid in for the frack? Were they not, were they, because you're supposed to, inject
Right,
behind the oil
uh-huh,
and displace the oil.
right,
And maybe they weren't doing that. Maybe they were letting the ground pressure just squirt the oil out. And in which case you'd have subsidence. And so they may have been doing other things that we wouldn't do.
right, and that's what I mean, like
Yeah.
they're. And we have other case studies, like Iceland, right, that's been doing this for
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Hawaii.
But you're also talking about areas where, the seismicity is so active that they probably wouldn't see anything.
They wouldn't notice.
Yeah, they wouldn't notice. So it's kind of a.
Interesting. Cause it's a terrifying thought to me, it's enough so that I've, been trying to.
Well, I don't know if you
read up
followed
on
it, but Iceland's, they're actually talking about boring through to the magma chamber and dropping water in there directly and letting the steam pop out. Again, what could possibly go wrong? And, I gotta trust them because they've been doing this and they're very expert and they probably got a line on it, but it sounds pretty scary to me. So, yeah.
Yeah,
We're not planning on doing that in Hawaii as far as I know, boring through the magma chamber.
yeah. Scary stuff,
Yeah, but, and, to be fair, the magma chamber is probably only a couple hundred meters deep there.
right,
So it's not, like, we've gotta go 6 kilometers to get to the chamber, we think, under Mount Baker. So we're only planning on going halfway. But, you know, there's different physical setup there.
I guess instead of it being scary, I would just say it's something to be aware of.
Mhm.
And, you know, driving could be considered scary if you look at the potential for, that. But instead, it's just something to be aware of and pay attention to while you're driving. That's where I would, use an analogy. So I'm not trying to be scary about it.
Oh, I'm sure you're not. I mean, you know, it's a concern, it's
And I'm
something that
speaking
people
humorously.
it's something that people bring up, right? So it's something that, you know, you do some reading on, and like you said, they're like, oh, well, is that what's causing it? Was it not done properly? You know, can we avoid it? Anyway.
Yeah, and when you look at what Iceland's doing, I make light of it and use humor, but they know what they're doing. And, you know, they look at the risk and mitigate it. For instance, how fast should you drive your car, to use your example? Do you know?
Fast as I can,
85 miles an hour, you know why?
no,
That's all your tires are rated for.
no, well,
And above that, you gotta go to speed rated tires, and there's a whole gradation of speed rated tires, and, you know, people don't think about that. And so, what engineers do is they engineer margins in there. And that's how you design it, and when you look at anything you do subterranean, you do that. You figure out the risk, you engineer margins in, and then you manage it as you go.
To be clear, you should not drive your car at 85 miles an hour. Your tires are rated to 85 miles an hour. You should drive your car at the speed limit or below what is safe for conditions.
Good correction, thank you.
What is safe, what is safe.
manager. Said I could.
To be clear,
I'm just.
drive your car.
The absolute speed limits of the vehicle.
Yes.
People don't think about it.
But you said
It's not
should,
endorsed.
not what can you drive it at, and there's a
Okay.
difference in where,
Fair enough.
yeah, so.
Thank you for that clarification.
What was meant to calm things down, it didn't work.
I think the term is a helpful term.
Mhm.
And it'll, now that's stuck in my head and it's helpful because people define the term to define something that is potentially a concern.
Mhm.
Okay, so, my report, the first, thing is just talking about per diems, November 14th, of course, we'll be at Wapuda. I, forgot about that, when I brought that up, but I'm glad it's here because, if you have the evening free, you might want to consider it. This Thursday, they're having an annual event. They do a heritage dinner. I can get you more information if you're interested. They're basically an opportunity to meet with tribal council, in lieu of, you know, obviously a much more focused meeting that we'll have at some point in the future. But I'm not gonna be able to attend that, obviously. When we're down there, I'm glad you're gonna come board of directors, because I'd like to do this grid storage conversation with Pacific Northwest National Labs. I look forward to then having another, some kind of follow-up there, and I'll, also look forward to talking to folks at Snohomish.
Hey, Tool, on that November 15th, aren't we driving back that day?
We are, but this is at night.
It is at night, okay.
Yeah, so while the board of directors meeting is going on, I'll be doing this, I'll just stay in the hotel room and do my, do that instead of going,
Isn't the 15th Friday?
It is.
yeah,
So the PNL meetings, we're gonna be back for that, right?
no, I'll do it, via Zoom,
Okay, all right.
remote. I'm just letting you know, because I won't be attending the board of directors meeting on the 15th. And then, there's something on the 21st. I mentioned, of course, but it's not a per diem because it's the same day as our, strategic planning, gonna go to the breakfast. On the 21st, the Point Roberts Community Association, what is that, PRCC, what does that stand for? Point Roberts? Anyway, PRCAC, Point Roberts CAC is having another meeting. I wanna make sure that I, close the loop and make it clear that if the folks there want to pursue anything as it relates to inclusion or exclusion from the adjudication, they need to petition ecology. And, you know, I talked to John, I talked to other people, And
Won't
we
even be
really
an
wanna make
ecology-
sure that,
It won't even be an ecology position at this point, because it was a petition from the tribes in the statutes, ecology shall.
Mhm.
So I think it's could be an ecology to amend their petition in theory, but the tribes would then.
if you wanna give me a specific sentence or two sentences that I should say.
I would say tell them to go to ecology, but I'm just telling you that ecology won't change, but I'd say have them talk to ecology.
Yeah, okay, that's what I
Yeah,
was
moving
planning on saying, because that's what you said earlier, so. And I just wanna make sure I make it clear, because, you know, it was the first time hearing it, that Point Roberts was wanting to be out of it, and I wanna make sure that I get turned around and get back to them and let them know that, yeah, I mean, there's nothing the PUD can do on this subject. Specifically, they need to talk to ecology, if that's something they wanna pursue, and probably in the new year, because nothing's gonna happen.
No, it's gonna happen. No.
So that's the reason I wanted to attend that meeting. That summarizes, everything on the per diem front. I just have a few comments I'd like to make now. First thing is that, in the Yakima Basin, there's a proposal for a water bank for wells, for, permit exempt wells. And, Whatcom County is excluded from applying for funding under this water banking funding. However, I'm very interested in seeing how this investigation, this study, this project goes. Because there might be something that will be learned in the Yakima Basin and using a water bank as it relates to private well users, what exempt wells. And I'm very curious about what we might learn from that. I just wanted to mention it. And I don't know if our opinion matters at Whatcom PUD. Each of us asked for comments. My immediate thinking is to just stay out of it. But if you guys think there's some benefit in making a supportive comment on that, please consider it. And if you feel like you need commission approval on that, that's. please
No,
come
I
back to
don't,
the commission.
because you give enough direction, say if we feel it's necessary or prudent.
Yeah. Is that, I mean, to me, yeah, okay. Moving on. Okay, market choice and volatility. So there was you may have seen, we got in our email, or Liz, our president, Florida president, may have been in that notification that BPA, looked in more depth at Markets Plus, the California versus the Southwest, Power Pools, market option, Market Plus versus, what's the other one? Why am I forgetting? BDAM. It didn't shift BP's staff recommendations to go with Market Plus. In addition to me, it's identified another important variable. And that is volatility. We're in the utility industry, and you know, it's about providing not just stable service, not just power, but some degree of predictability to the price and the quality of that power too. And one of the negatives of EDAM relative to Markets Plus is that there's a lot more volatility in the EDAM market. Some potential bigger upside. But how much do you want to trade risk of pricing for stable pricing? So I think that that's probably a factor. I mean, Northwest ratepayers are not California ratepayers. California ratepayers have been run through the ringer on pricing. They're used to price fluctuations. And I think there's an overwhelming sentiment in public power, and I think among consumers in the Northwest, that they don't want to be jerked around like that on pricing. And so that's another attribute to me that further makes me feel more attracted to Markets Plus relative to EDM. And I loved your thoughts on the subject, Chris.
Well, first of all, just so that everybody can keep this straight, I'll tell you how I think about it. California cheese, Eden. So anytime you hear Markets Plus, it's not California cheese. So, that's how I always kept that straight, as they changed all their names and all that, but when you look at Bonneville's latest statement, that comes out of a series of studies that they had that countered the E3 study that California and the IOUs put together. And yes, when there's volatility, there tends to be bigger price swings under the EDM model. But those price swings, a lot more of that gets skimmed off as margin for California. And we saw that during the January cold snap, where an estimated $200 million was taken from the
That's
Pacific
right.
Northwest into California. And it was because Arizona was dispatching power through California to save us. And California, because of the way their rate structures are made, they made a lot of money on that. And I would expect to see that continue. Anything that's driven by California will be, by its nature, beneficial to California, and shouldn't be a surprise. The other thing is that public power is kind of the voice of, we should go with Southwest markets, we should go with Markets Plus. And I think I've said before, the reason for that is, you know, we've looked at it and we said, okay, what can we control and what's a better outcome for our customers? And clearly that's Markets Plus in the Southwest for a million reasons. The investor owns, including Warren Buffett's Pacific Core and others in Puget Sound Energy, have gone to the California model. And part of the reason is it can be executed more quickly. All they care about is recovering costs. If they're in a market and there's something that's charged, the UTC will allow them to pass that directly through their customers. They don't care about their customers. We care about our customers. And that's kind of the fundamental difference between how the investor owners look at this and public power looks at it. We look at what's the best outcome for our customers. They look at what's the best outcome for our owners, which is their shareholders. And that's, you end up with a very different perspective. So I think, you know, BPA staff looked at it, concluded it was a much better deal for end use customers to go with Markets Plus. And now after the uproar and all of the elected officials getting lobbied by all the investor-owned utilities and caused them to pause, they've paused, they've looked at it and they've said, no, we got it right the first time.
Mhm.
That's my read of it. And, you know, we should continue to, in my opinion, we should continue to support PUD. I think they're on the right side of this. I think BPA is on the right side of it. And the side that they're on is their customer side. And that's where we belong.
So thank you for that. And that's, I got nothing more to say about that subject. And we'll I'm sure, get more briefings this week at Wakuda. Did you have a question?
I want to clarify something, Chris. You made a statement, and I'm not trying to pick on you. I just think it's
That's
important. You said that they don't care about their customers, and I don't think that's an accurate statement. I just think
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
they have a higher priority to their profit margin and their owners, whoever those might be, because it is a private enterprise. They can still care about their customers. They just have a higher priority than that, and they have an obligation to create a profit motive. So I think it's important to note that.
So they're not evil people. I'm not casting
Yeah.
aspersions on them. Their motivations are different than ours.
Yes,
And we just need to recognize that.
and that's the beauty of public
The
power.
language I would use actually is they care about their customers differently than we care about our customers.
Sure.
And
Well, having worked in an IOU for 25 years, the only customer that PG&E had was the California Public Utilities Commission. You keep that customer happy and you can collect bills from these 10 million other folks out here and we don't care. And that literally was their outlook. So, I mean, it's kind of I'm jaded.
No,
But, you know, I like public power because we really care about our customers. Public power and public water, we care about our customers, that's why we're here.
And one thing you mentioned there about Northwest ratepayers being impacted by California. I think they are in a way, because one of the things I learned, like Pacific on I think it was the first Wakuda meeting I went to at Cowlitz, we toured the dam that they have up there. Cowlitz has a couple of dams, but it's right below a private dam owned by Pacific Core, and they sell that power to California. So they make their hydropower here, and Pacific Core sells that, and that is an impact to us whether we recognize that or not, right? Because how much more energy would we have locally to provide, and clean energy at that? So I think that, you know, recognizing how everything is intertwined, my idea is, I think Markets Plus does a better job of recognizing that because they're able to be a more holistic and global outlook than the EDAM model, which is very California centric. Thanks for letting me add.
No, thank you. Next topic is the community solar. There's an effort to put forward a community solar bill again this year. As you all know, personally, and we as a commission have been very supportive, of all of the above kind of approach. There might be an opportunity for us to engage and weigh in and support this particular piece of legislation. So I want to raise the subject and gauge interest in that particular subject. I do know one thing, and that is that it's likely that the IOUs will be in opposition to this bill. And knowing WAPUDA from previous sessions, they've stayed neutral on the subject. So a supportive PUD or two could, you know, make a difference in the likelihood of this bill making it to the governor's desk.
Have you seen any language yet?
No, I'm supposed to be getting it.
Okay, it's possible that, I mean, you can structure the bill so that the IOUs will love it. You know, where it essentially forces the UTC to allow recovery. And then the IOUs are, hey, this is great. In which case I would suggest WAPUDA might want to support that. The other thing in the language you gotta look out for is what we've seen in the cutoff moratoriums and other things, where you want to make sure it doesn't mandate that for public power, so we retain local control.
Okay. Would you like me to send you the language?
As soon as you get it, let's.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
I will do that. I just want to put it on the radar, and I guess maybe some general feel from you guys about how you feel about that.
Yes, and I would like to see some discussion started about community storage.
It's actually in the community
Is
solar bill, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So. All right, and then the last thing is risk management. You know, when I first became a commissioner, I took the seat of a gentleman who ran an insurance business, and I did my damnedest to try to climb the learning curve of understanding risk management. I'm less incompetent on the subject than I was. But as you know, in our last assigning responsibilities exercise, I asked Ann for help to cover it, and she's done a great job this last year. But I'm just feeling like, I don't think I've shifted
You asked Annette.
Annette. Did I say Ann again?
It's okay. And that's been covering it. She's been brilliant.
Yeah, and that's been brilliant. God, why am I gonna do that? Anyway, so I asked Annette to cover it, and she's been doing a great job. And I don't know that exactly how to proceed, but I want the commission to consider that instead of having a commission member attend PERM's meeting, we designate Annette or the general manager to designate someone to attend that, and then just have a annual risk management check-in. You know, just show up on our agenda somehow or another, where we cover all the aspects of risk management, including PERMs and maybe a few other items. And recognize that, I don't know when that should be, that's for you guys to figure it out. Recognize that Annette is extremely busy with the budget process in the fall. I don't know any, but I'm imagining maybe spring would be a good time to do the risk management. I'm just running that up the flagpole, seeing what the commission thinks, because I'm essentially suggesting that we delete that terms from the commission responsibility as far as attendance going forward. So, and we'll get to discuss that more in depth in January when we do the assignments.
What acronym is PERMS?
Public Utility Risk Management.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if it's required to have an elected on that board or not.
I've talked to Dick about that.
Yeah, I think in their bylaws, they want either an elected person or the GM. And then there's two levels. There's the management or governance board, and then there's the actual functional board. And Annette's been on the functional board all along. So, you know, she's been there kind of in the weeds on the whole thing. And I would just say in terms of risk management, the point you bring up is a really good one. From a policy perspective, I would recommend that you guys say, hey, look, have you identified all the risks and do you hedge against them?
Yeah.
And talk to us about how you do that. And then, if there's something you've missed, point that out. Typically, the way you hedge against it is either through reserves or through insurance. And those, unless you're in power markets, in which case you have puts and sells on forward contracts, but we're not there yet. So it's typically gonna be reserves and insurance. And the question is, have we identified all of the wildfire, cyber, the boiler and equipment, all of the other standard risks, have we covered it? And then, I should be able to assure you that, yeah, this package of reserves and insurance is the lowest cost option usually looked at.
And, both to Chris and to Annette, I have done my darndest, you know this, to try to stop them for the last 6 years, before, Steve. And
To try,
frankly,
I'm sorry,
to stop them, ask them a question that they
stump,
couldn't, that couldn't answer, and frankly, they really have, and it really has this subject. And it's not that I'm not disappointed in that, that means that we're running a tight ship, and that's a good thing. But I'm just not finding I'm contributing. Whereas it's, there's lots of areas where when I attend, I'm able to come back with something where I feel like it's a piece of assessment or analysis I can actually contribute. And I haven't found that in the subject of risk management, so.
Well, Chris, most of the stuff you mentioned were capital risk, right? Were related to financial risk. Do we also look at reputation risk and relationship risk, and are those covered in there? Because those might be more where
No, we don't.
that's where you might be able to add reputation risk and relationship risks.
Right.
And adding those in as.
But that doesn't
The
happen
question
at
is,
firms.
how would you hedge it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's different ways.
Mhm.
So beyond the scope here, happy to have a conversation with you offline about some of that stuff that I've learned at the credit union and stuff like that.
And by the way, that would be better done in a commission meeting rather than at perms. As like I said, an annual check-in where we could cover the broader subject of risk management.
And I think in the end, just to not gloss over it, communication is key. And it falls back to that communication stuff. Great.
So you don't feel like you're contributing is the issue, is that,
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm adding any value.
yeah. Yeah,
And,
no, that's a valid concern. I mean,
yeah,
why-
and,
We
yeah,
have other
But-
things to.
we have plenty,
the
got plenty to, that I
Yeah.
can focus on where I can.
people that have a house that pay their homeowner's insurance, they don't see the value in that until their house burns down. So a lot of times in risk management, you don't feel like you're getting much out of it because it's doing its job.
Yeah, that's the exact conversation that Commissioner Vishwani and I had yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking about, the risk of wildfire and, the answer is that it's a very low probability event here, but if it happened, it would be really bad. And that's why you insure.
Right, and so, but maybe where the commission can be engaged is setting the parameters. Policy parameters for how we approach risk management, rather than getting involved with the insurance policy itself and the. There was one time which, a few years ago, which I found really rewarding, was getting into the formula. They revisit their formula every few years. And that, please chime in if it's something you'd like to clarify here, Chris. The point being that the formula on how Wacom PD gets weighed in, to the aggregate and how we get a portion of the premium, that formula calculation. And that was an interesting subject, but even that is something where I would want to provide input to staff rather than speak in any way at the PERMS meeting on the subject, if you're following what I'm saying.
Something you might consider doing is reaching out. I think financial institutions have some crossover with public utilities in both reputation and relationship risk, and also capital and financial risk. And so you might reach out to some local financial institutions and ask them about their risk management policies. And if they're willing to share that with you, that might give you some inform a little bit more for ideas of where we could or should, either have more or adjust.
Okay,
And in a couple of weeks, I might be able to help you out with it.
okay, yeah, great.
I also think we can have a broader conversation about this in January.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
assign- Yeah.
Just giving a heads
Yeah,
up.
yeah, no, thanks for bringing it up. Wasn't on my radar.
That's it for me. I think.
Okay, great. So last chance for public comment. Is this your time to shine, Robin?
I have a question. Well, first of all, I just want to say I really enjoyed the conversation here for the last half hour. I think I wish there were a simpler way to make the public at large aware of the kinds of things that you guys talk about. I mean, I think everything was on point. I really enjoyed it. My specific question is about how I've seen the update of the strategic plan on a couple of agendas, but nothing ever gets discussed, and now you're having a meeting, and I don't know, I do have some thoughts about that. What, is it just the commissioners at this meeting, or?
No,
It's an open public meeting.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
anybody can attend. In fact, I'm encouraged to attend.
Okay, I'll wait and share my thoughts about that. But I love the risk management, discussion and basically all the discussion that took place here. I wish there was a way to transmit that. And that is, I mean, I spent 20 years in the wire process, and that was the most difficult part of that process. It was how to make people aware of what was going on in 20 years of meetings. And as you can see from the prelude to the adjudication, that we never solved that problem, and it's still not solved. So, that would be also something to consider with the strategic plan, but I'll wait and share that with you at that meeting. That's the 19th?
Yeah,
And we're gonna start at 8:30.
8:30
Yeah, it'll
It's
be
here.
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I'll save my comments for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There. Any attendees online with hands raised? Doesn't look like it. So we are going to end the public meeting and have executive session for GM performance review and water rights
Maybe
litigation.
general litigation, because I'll have another update.
Oh, general litigation. Okay. And that'll take about 30 minutes still.
I'm gonna be quick, so I don't know.
We can work with whatever. constraints.
Let's leave at least 30, since we're gonna be talking about, I don't wanna cut short.
Okay, so we're thinking 10:15.
Want to take a couple in break?
Let's call it 10:20.
Okay, 10:20. Sounds good. We are adjourned for the public meeting.
For Mike's benefit, I'm not opening the link.
So public meeting, we will
It is 10:51. We are back from executive session. No action was taken and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, thank you.
Oh, training.